There's a strange kind of moment that catches you off guard sometimes. Actually, funny thing, I'm drinking coffee right now while I write this, which is kind of ironic because I didn't even like coffee for the longest time. It was my friend Lucas who changed that. He got one of those fancy machines. I think it was a Siemens one, and made me try this coffee that I genuinely can't remember the name of anymore. But I remember thinking, okay, maybe I've just been drinking bad coffee my whole life. Anyway, not the point of this video, but it's funny how something so small can just quietly change a habit you thought was permanent about yourself. Not a big moment, not an achievement anyone else would clap for, just a small pause where you realize, almost by accident, that you've become someone your younger self would actually be proud of. Not perfect, not impressive by anyone else's math, just steadier than you used to be. I think we spend so much time chasing the next version of ourselves that we rarely stop to notice the version we already became. The one who used to spiral over one bad text and now just doesn't. The one who used to say yes to everything out of fear of disappointing people and now can say, I can't, not this week, without the guilt eating them alive for 3 days after. That's not nothing. That's actually kind of everything. I want to be honest though. I don't think growth looks like the highlight reel version people post. It's not one clean turning point where everything clicked. It's messier than that. You backslide. You have a week where you're right back to old patterns, snapping at someone you love, doom scrolling till 2 a.m, wondering why you're still dealing with the same insecurity you thought you'd worked through 2 years ago. And I think that messiness is exactly why a lot of us don't give ourselves credit for the progress that is actually there. We measure growth like it should be a straight line. And when it isn't, when we relapse into an old habit or an old fear, we treat it like proof we haven't changed at all. Like the last 2 years didn't count. But that's not really how becoming someone works. Or, I don't know, maybe it is for some people, but it wasn't for me. It isn't for most people I've talked to about this. It's not linear, it's more like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and somehow you're still further along than you were, even on the days it doesn't feel that way. Here's a question worth sitting with for a second. If you sat your younger self down, the version of you from, say, 5 years ago, and just described your actual life right now, not the parts you'd want to brag about, just the honest, unfiltered version, what would they think? I think a lot of us assume that version of ourselves would be disappointed, that we're behind some invisible schedule they were counting on. But I actually think more often than not they'd just be relieved that you're not as anxious all the time, relieved you finally said no to a few things that used to drain you completely, relieved that you learned, even slowly, even imperfectly, how to be a little kinder to yourself when things go wrong. That kid didn't need you to have a perfect life. They just needed you to not be as scared as they were. And if you're even a little less scared than you used to be, you already did that for them. I think the problem is we hold ourselves to standards nobody ever actually set for us. We imagine some external judge keeping score, deciding if we've done enough, grown enough, healed enough. But nobody's actually holding that scorecard except us, and most days we're grading ourselves way harsher than anyone else ever would. So here's what I keep coming back to. Growth doesn't have to be dramatic to be real. It doesn't need a before and after post or a breakthrough moment or a clean story you can tell at a dinner party. Sometimes it's just you handled something today that would have wrecked you a year ago You noticed a thought spiraling and caught it halfway instead of riding it all the way down. You apologized first, even though it was uncomfortable. You rested without guilt for once, instead of treating rest like something you had to earn. None of that trends. None of that gets a highlight reel, but it's real. And it adds up quietly in a way you usually only notice by accident, in some random, unremarkable moment, like this one, where you just catch yourself being okay. I don't think you need a huge transformation story to deserve to feel proud of where you are. I think you're allowed to just notice the small, quiet ways you've gotten steadier and let that be enough. Even without an audience for it, even without proof, even if the only person who'd ever know the difference is you, and maybe some younger version of yourself who's finally starting to relax a little now that you've got it from here. Alright, one last random thought before I go. Remember that coffee thing I mentioned earlier? Lucas still owes me the name of that drink, by the way, if you're watching this, man, but it got me thinking. If I somehow turned into that cappuccino tomorrow, would you still be here watching? Anyway, that's a question for another day. Probably a weirder video than this one. Take care. I'll see you around.